Hello and welcome to The Nation. You're watching Elaine Abdullah on The Nation. The National Trade Blueprint 2021-2025 launched this year, formulated by the Ministry of International Trade and Industry together with MATRADE, will address the structural changes needed for the export sector to thrive and strengthen Malaysia's position in the international arena. Today I have two guests with me in the studio. CEO of MATRADE Yang Berusaha, Muhammad Mustafa Abdul Aziz, as well as MATRADE's Senior Director Yang Berbahagia, Dr. Arin G. Nonis, to talk about how can this 5-year plan enhance export competitiveness. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen. Welcome to the studio. We're very glad to have you here to join us, of course. I'll dive straight into the very first question. The first question is, what is the National Trade Blueprint itself? Perhaps, Cik Mustafa, you'd be able to take this question for us.
Thank you, Ellen, for having us today. Briefly, let me just share with the audience about the National Trade Blueprint. It all started when Malaysia realized that our global ranking, export ranking, start to slip from the from 18 to 24th.
Correct.
In terms of our ranking. And that's where we realized that we need to do something about it. And it is all about the business ecosystem that need to be looked at, and these are the challenges that not only the industry but the government need to do something to improve our ranking. So what we have done is that in collaboration with our ministry, that is the Ministry of International Trade and Industry of Malaysia and MATRADE, we commissioned a study called the National Trade Blueprint. It's a 5-year strategic plan. And we conducted the study for almost a year, and it was launched by the Yang Muhammad Prime Minister on the 25th of October.
That's right.
We have come up with the recommendations, about 40 recommendations, in order for us to make a comeback. The interesting part is that some of these countries that used to be behind us been catching up, such as like UAE, United Arab Emirates, Russia, even Vietnam, India, and Poland. So we need to understand what basically the issue or issues rather that need to be looked at, and to come up with a strategic plan. To ensure that we are competitive in the export business.
That's right. So we have some findings from whatever studies that's been done in order for us to be able to develop some plans in order for us to step up our competitiveness on the global platform. Now, Dato', perhaps I have this next question for you. What were the underlying factors that led to the development of this National Trade Blueprint in the first place?
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. Firstly, as informed by my CEO, the National Trade Blueprint was developed with some export concern. As highlighted by Mr. Mustafa, our biggest concern was the declining global export ranking from the 18th to the 24th in 2020. Although Malaysian export is growing, the growth is not as fast as other countries. The second concern is the importance of us keeping abreast with the relevant information relating to the global market landscape. So we need to provide the necessary information so we stay ahead in exports. There's also a dire need, for us to boost the exports of SMEs because they make up the largest business establishment in Malaysia. Over 97% of establishment are by SMEs. However, the export is only 8.5% to total merchandise export in 2020. And last but not least is the challenges and constraint in the processes that the business has to undergo, which has actually hampered the efficiency of the Malaysia business export ecosystem. So these are in gist the concerns that brought up to the development of the National Trade Blueprint.
So we still have a little bit of work ahead of us in order for us to be able to increase our competitiveness, in order for us to be able to climb up those rankings back again. Now, we also have the next question for you, Dato' Orin. What is the framework or concept of the National Trade Blueprint?
Yeah. Okay, the National Trade Blueprint is led by the vision to position Malaysia as the leading exporter. Okay, which is through 4 strategic priorities.
Right.
Okay, basically to enhance our export competitiveness.
Right.
Okay, so the 4 priorities are basically to increase the exporting companies.
Right.
Okay, by uplifting their capabilities and capacity. Secondly, is to increase the exports of high value products.
Right.
Okay, and also to ensure that the companies participate in the global value chain. Okay. Thirdly, is to diversify our exports. That means we have to go into niche sectors. Okay, as well as to intensify our export promotion activities. And lastly, is to improve our export ecosystem to ensure that business processes are efficient. Okay, that will support our exports. Okay, hence we would have to minimize trade barriers and also challenges that our exporters are facing.
Right, okay. So we have quite a few challenges that we have to also overcome before we find that roadmap for us to be able to climb back again. Now, we'll take a short breather right now. We'll be coming back after these messages with more questions. And the next question, we'll be talking about the implementation of the National Trade Blueprint. Now, stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Hello and welcome back on The Nation. You're joining me, Elaine Abdullah, right here on BERNAMA TV. Today we're speaking about the topic of the National Trade Blueprint, enhancing export competitiveness. And in the studio I have, of course, 2 guests with me who were speaking to me earlier, CEO of MATRADE Yang Berusaha, Muhammad Mustafa Abdul Aziz, as well as MATRADE's Senior Director Yang Berbahagia, Dato' Orin Nonis, to talk about how this path is going to be enhanced for us to be able to gain our competitiveness back again. So we asked a few questions earlier. Now we're on to the next question about implementation, because we established what the National Trade Blueprint was, what the challenges are, what are the concerns that we had. Now let's talk about how will this National Trade Blueprint be implemented. Cik Mustafa, perhaps you can elaborate on this.
Thank you for the question, Elaine. The implementation definitely will be massive. When I say massive, it involves 8 working groups. And these groups will be represented by the respective ministries that will address all those issues and challenges and come up with the recommendations. If I can share with you, there are 8 working groups, as I mentioned earlier, and they have been formed to improve specific areas within the business ecosystems that exporters have to undergo. And to implement this, we have the study has already identified 40 recommendations.
Wow.
And now these 8 working groups will look at trade facilitation aspect of it.
Okay.
And when you say trade facilitation, we have to make sure to ensure that the efficiency in the regulatory process. We realize that there are some unfamiliar procedures that again been identified and also been found that need to be addressed adequately. Number two is the logistics. Now, logistics is to increase efficiency in the logistic-related matters. This is also one of the issues that have been raised by the industry players, especially during the pandemic. We were lucky in the sense that when we conducted the study, the pandemic hit us, and that's where we quickly look back at the study and say that, hey, we need to do something also about the current situation, where we need to look at what would be the impact of this pandemic, and that's why we come up with new suggestions and recommendations to the effect. Now, number three is the standards and conformance, to increase adoptions of standards and certifications. Lengthy approval process, those are one of the issues that have been brought up. Fourthly, trade promotion and market access, another important aspect which to ensure efficient export promotion and facilitation in market access. That's require collaborations between ministries, agencies and industry players. Fifth will be sustainability and innovation. Six will be digitalization and technology. Again, the pandemic basically taught us, to not to be in physical form, but rather to do things, meetings and so forth virtually. Seven will be investment, and we have to ensure that to bring high value investment to the country. And lastly, branding, to elevate the Malaysian branding for exports. So all in all, this implementation of the frame work that we have identified is to accommodate particular initiative that has been proposed within the NTBP. And we have a committee called Jawatankuasa Coordination Export for Export, Jawatankuasa Coordination Export, which is chaired by the Chief Secretary to the Government, Tan Sri KSN, which will look at all these recommendations and to ensure that the ministries and agencies really solve the problems within the business ecosystems. And what is important to me is that these problems will not be resolved if there's no concerted efforts from every party. And we believe that we will be able to push back Malaysia where it's supposed to be, at least within the top 20 trading nations.
Fantastic. Now that will be, of course, the target at this point of time. But it's no small task when you have that many agencies involved, and the coordination, liaison, and the communication is going to be really challenging. One of the things that I think a lot of people are trying to overcome is working in silos. And especially in a digitalized world where communication is so quick. You can create a lot of connections and network. So we're looking forward to this being able to facilitate and expedite and accelerate that whole process, because all this takes time, isn't it?
Yes.
At the end of the day. Now, let's talk about the next question. There are, of course, various blueprints as well as frameworks developed by the government. How does this National Trade Blueprint, Dr. Orin, relate to these various blueprints and frameworks?
Thank you, Elaine. The National Trade Blueprint is actually a trade-oriented action plan, which encompasses a wide spectrum of areas, or we call it elements. Right? So the National Trade Blueprint actually examines the whole ecosystem or supply chain of trade, which, for example, covers trade facilitation, logistics, digitalization, sustainability, just to name a few. All these elements may have their own blueprints or strategic action plans. So the National Trade Blueprint actually streamlines or harmonizes all these elements within the context of trade. In gist, the National Trade Blueprint actually echoes the aspiration of all blueprints that has been developed as well as strategic plans. It does not actually want to reinvent the wheel. Rather, we would like to complement all the blueprints that has been developed by converging the objectives as well as reconciling the initiatives by bringing together the various stakeholders within the supply chain towards a central goal. Central goal to to fit into the export framework by realigning, okay, the direction and trust to meet the changing global landscape.
Right.
Okay, and also to meet the current business needs.
Right.
Okay, so that's why we actually complement all the blueprints that has been developed.
So again, there's a lot of coordination that's required with regards to multiple phases, multiple steps.
Yes.
We have the National Trade Blueprint, as you mentioned earlier, is sort of like an overall guide direction for the trade facilitation. And under that, whether you're talking about the logistics, whether you're talking about the trade facilitation, digitalization, sustainability, all of them have strategic plans for implementation. How far are we from, climbing that? Essentially, you have multiple parties. What's the time frame like, essentially, for us to be able to start rolling all these implementation plans? Will we have some idea of a time frame?
Well, as I said just now, it is a long-term plan. And when I say long-term plan, it has to be aligned with some other policies that we have.
Right.
For example, we align it to the 12th Malaysian plan.
That's right.
And definitely there will be a time frame for it. But for us, what is important is to get the buy-in from the ministries, the stakeholders, that we need to address these issues, these challenges quickly.
So everybody needs to be able to come together in order for us to be able to make this happen. All right,
yes.
We'll take another short breather before we close with a few other questions for both of you. Stay tuned, we'll be right back right after these messages. Hi there, thanks for staying with us on The Nation. You're still with me, Elaine Ablaw, and today we are still speaking about the topic of the National Trade Blueprint. If you're wondering what that is, it's enhancing export competitiveness for Malaysia. And with me in the studios, of course, CEO of MATRADE Yang Berusaha Muhammad Mustafa Abdul Aziz, as well as MATRADE Senior Director Yang Berbahagia Dr. Arin Jin Nonis. Now, we've had quite a robust conversation with regards to the National Trade Blueprint, quite a lot of steps, concerns we've addressed, and buy-in of stakeholders. That's where we were last speaking about, in order for us to be able to roll this out efficiently, for us to be able to climb that ranking back and put ourselves at top of mind recall. Now, let's talk about the next question. How does the National Trade Blueprint benefit the rakyat or keluarga Malaysia? Dr. Ari, perhaps you can take this question first.
Thank you, Elaine. So the National Trade Blueprint aims to serve as a catalyst to bring positive impact to the economy. Okay, how do we do that? It is through enhanced exports, which will bring higher revenue to the country. Okay, so with higher revenue, and the rakyat will have a higher standard of living. Yep, there'll be job employment for the country, and to serve the employment industry, we need to educate the rakyat. Okay, so education will be vastly improved. Okay, quality lifestyle, right, as well as the whole infrastructure of the country will subsequently be upgraded.
Right.
So that is how the positive impact the National Trade Blueprint will bring to the country.
So it's part and parcel. You have something to add?
Yes, I think to further enhance Malaysia's position as a leading exporting nations, I think we have to provide clear directions, and the initiatives to be undertaken should be really understood by the rakyat.
Yes.
That we are coming up with this plan is to improve further the rakyat in the sense that they are able to enjoy a better life. And we believe that this NTBP will gradually improve the business ecosystem by supporting the Malaysian industries to grow faster, and this will definitely help the rakyat directly.
It's a supply and demand situation, isn't it? If you have the demand, you'll be able to produce more supply, increase productivity, increase job opportunities, and be able to create a better lifestyle for Malaysians as a whole, and increase the income of the nation as a whole as well. Now, next question. What is your message to Malaysians who would like to contribute to the success of the National Trade Blueprint, and how can they get more information on this, Cik Mustafa?
I believe that the scope breadth of NTBP is wide and all-encompassing within the business ecosystem, from investment to logistics, as I mentioned earlier, branding, and ultimately to export. With a commitment from all parties, ministries, agencies, industry associations, the business community in the export value chain, Malaysia would definitely achieve new heights of the economic expansion driven by strong export growth. I also believe that for those viewers outside there who are involved in this business ecosystem, we encourage you to strive further improvement to boost our nation's economy. For those Malaysian companies that would like to explore the export market, be part of us, be part of MATRADE, register with us, and it doesn't cost you anything. But what is important for you to understand that the bigger cake is outside there, and we should grab it as fast as we could, because Malaysian products and services basically are highly demanded by the buyers or importers outside there, not only because of the quality that we produce, but also reliability, and also the brand of Malaysia itself is so strong outside there. So I believe that they will be able to make that true.
I think a lot of companies always have a little bit of perhaps reservation with regards to how do we go over to an overseas market, how do we expand our market. There are a lot of questions. I think these questions are best answered by getting in touch with MATRADE in order for this facilitation process to happen, in order for us to open those doors and expand the business for businesses that, like you mentioned, we have services and products that are in demand, and we just need to make it available to those who are interested. Now, one final question, of course. As a conclusion to wrap up this session, do you have any final words to share with our viewers? Let's start with Dr. Oren before we close with Cik Mustafa.
Yes, thanks, Elaine. Just would like to inform the viewers, if they'd like to get more information on the National Trade Blueprint, they actually can just log on to www.matrade.gov.my/NTBP, or they can just email us, to get a copy of the blueprint for public information.
Right. Cik Mustafa, any words to those who are actually interested, keen, but there's always something that has held them back? What would you say to parties like that?
Well, I was born, bred, and raised in MATRADE for the last 27 years. I believe that MATRADE would be the right agency for us to provide this kind of assistance and facilitations to the business community who would like to explore the international market. Under the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, we have done a lot to the business community. MATRADE, as I said, being the National Export Promotion Agency of the Government of Malaysia, with a vast international network, 46 offices abroad, 5 regional offices and headquarters in Kuala Lumpur, definitely will be able to provide something to the business community. And what is important for us is to continue our engagement, not only with the respective ministries that are involved in the export promotion, but also with all these ministry agencies as well as the industry associations. Some of the business owners, they do not know that as I said, there are a lot of plenty outside there that we can just grab it and help the country to position ourselves back to be in the top 20 again.
Fantastic. I think we are having the right platform, right connections, right agencies, right partners. We'll be able to lift ourselves and bring ourselves even further. Thank you so much both, Encik Mustafa as well as Dato' Arin, for that conversation and for the chat. And to those out there who are interested to expand your businesses, you have the right partner just around the corner. Digitally, everything is available right now. Now, as said by our Prime Minister during the launch, the blueprint reflects the government's clear ambitions to further develop Malaysia's position and competitiveness in international trade. More importantly, this blueprint is set to supplement policies outlined in the 12th Malaysia Plan towards meeting its targets with clear, actionable and focused recommendations. This will be a positive for the rakyat, besides benefiting the business community. Now we look forward to this development. I'm Elaine Abdullah. This has been The Nation. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.